Thank God for the innocence of babes. Annabelle prattled happily as she mopped up ketchup with her fish fingers, unconcerned that it was the exact same dinner she'd had for the last 8 nights in a row. She was talking about Liam, or maybe Jeremy, and how he once pushed her into the gravel at school, but she didn't even cry, and then he said sorry and gave her one of the snails he found, and then they'd... I tried to smile. As I did, I felt the insistent tug of sleep drag at the corners of my eyes. I was used to it now. It was comforting. It was a reminder that I was doing the best I could, pushed to my absolute physical and mental limits, but still fighting for her. Anna clumsily wiped a glob of ketchup from her cheek with the back of her hand. She fell silent for a moment. Then, "When are we going home, Mama?" "Soon, baby girl." I hadn't slept since the motel 3 nights ago, when, desperately exhausted, I'd passed out in the tobacco-stained armchair barricading the door. "When will they stop chasing us?" "Soon, baby girl." I swaddled Anna in a thin, musty sheet I'd found in one of the linen closets. It was all I could find. As I laid her down on the damp sofa, I thanked God that Arkansas didn't get terribly cold in the fall. Anna wrinkled her nose, revealing tiny, white little teeth. "This smells funny." "It's just old, baby," I said. I kissed her forehead and inhaled deeply, relishing the sweet scent of motel shampoo that still lingered on her hair. "Things will get better soon." "I don't want to sleep." "Why not?" Anna turned her large, fearful eyes on the parlor door. "Nothing's going to get you," I soothed, trying to ignore the cloying scent of mildew. "Mama's going to stay up all night." Mama didn't have a choice. For 2 weeks we'd been running. I tried to hide it from her, but it was inevitable that she caught on. She, too, had seen the faces pressed up against the windows. She'd heard them wheedling at her, begging her to open the door, manipulating, whispering to let them in. They had a toy that she was just such a good little girl. When they saw me, they grew enraged, their expressionless faces warped into masks of fury, eyes bulging. They would throw their bodies against our walls, doors would splinter, and the night would fill with a deep, omnipresent wail. And we would run, and run, and run. From motel to campgrounds to abandoned house, physical location rarely mattered. They would always appear, keiling, raging, staring faces pressed against our windows, surrounding us. I nervously fingered the cold surface of my revolver. Tonight, Mama would watch for them again, watch for their faces. It took less time than usual. I was sitting on the sofa at Anna's feet, listening to her soft, sticky breaths as she slept. I noticed a streak of coagulated ketchup on her face and moved to the kitchen in search of a cloth that could be considered vaguely clean. It was then when I saw it. Pale skin pressed against the kitchen window pane, the whites of its eyes glimmering in the pitch blackness of the night. Long, slender fingers silently snaking under the frame, working at the lock. I froze. It slowly turned its eyes on me, and its face curled in with rage. I fled to Annabelle. The second I turned, I heard a loud crunch as the window frame splintered against a sudden force. At the same time, that familiar, desperate wailing filled the air. I heard the thuds of bodies being flung against the doors, saw their faces through the windows, the open mouths, the wild, flashing eyes. I seized Anna, pitched her startled form over my shoulder, ignoring her surprised cry. I grabbed the gun. I ran down the basement steps, 3 at a time. I didn't feel my feet making contact with the floor. The house shook with the force of 1,000 bodies pressed against it, caving it in, desperately clawing their way to us. I'd earlier scoped the house out. I had an exit plan, a rotted basement door protected externally by a wild thicket of overgrowth. Immediately encroaching on the backyard were woodlands, tall, wild, dark, and home to prey animals for innumerable millennia. I threw my back to the door, shielding Anna, and burst through it. I felt splinters scratch along my sides and my neck, catching on skin filaments and tissue. Under the furious wailing, piercing the night with its lilting howl, I could faintly hear Anna's panicked sobs. "It's okay, baby girl, it's okay," I panted, sprinting to the woods. "I'm not going to let them get you. Hold on to me, Anna, hold on." I wasn't sure if the warm wetness against my neck was my blood or her tears. I heard crunching behind me. They had seen us. They were following us. I hadn't prepared enough. We couldn't escape this time. Behind me, I could still hear the crashing, the deep crunching sounds of powerful bodies, predators, swerving through the woodlands. I could feel their eyes on my back. I could feel their excitement, their rush, the hunger for my baby girl. My foot hit something hard, a stone hidden in the mound of decaying leaves. I fell, dropping Anna as I collapsed to the ground. A sharp pain sung up from my ankle. I twisted myself around, desperate to face them, grasped at my gun. They were close, so incredibly close. I could hear their footsteps all around, rapidly closing in a semicircle. I could see their tall, swaying outlines framed against the black oak trunks. Too many. Far too many for the single bullet in the chamber. Trembling, I stared at my daughter. She looked up at me, dust clinging to her face. A dark smudge of coagulated ketchup streaked across her cheek. I gently turned the barrel toward her. They will never take my baby girl. Mama? I pulled the trigger. One of them lunged at Annabelle as she crumpled into the undergrowth, enveloped her tiny, limp body. The breath is ripped from my lungs and I'm suddenly pinned to the forest floor. They scream in my ear over the wailing sirens, wrench handcuffs over my wrists. They will never take my baby girl from me. Houston, come in. This is UN Space Station Libra. Come in, Houston. No reply. Just like every other time. I throw the receiver in disgust, the weightless environment causing it to float mockingly in front of my face at the end of its retention strap. I'm bathed in the soft red glow of emergency lights that serve to illuminate every inch of my tiny cell. I take a deep breath to calm my nerves before returning to fiddle at the maintenance panel. I've been in here for 2 weeks now. Libra was designed as a successor to the International Space Station. Typically there is a minimum 2 crew on board at any one time. I was supposed to be out of here 3 weeks ago with the British and Chinese astronauts who came up with me, but unfortunately the replacements had some mechanical complications, and then nasty weather delayed the Moscow launch another week. Even so, they should have been here days ago. You sure you'll be alright up here by yourself, mate? Sure. Somebody's gotta keep the lights on. Besides, the Ruskies will be here soon. Just have a drink for me when you get landside, yeah? I expect I'll have 2. Godspeed. I was ready to spend 7 to 10 days by myself on the station, waiting for the Russians to get their act together and get me my ride home. I'd done some time in an isolation chamber during my training, so I knew how to handle being stuck in a confined space with myself. The trick is not to listen to the voices. The station itself isn't roomy, but it has 5 different modular compartments, more than enough space for one person to not feel enclosed. Even better, every module except for the emergency cell has specially reinforced portals giving magnificent views of the Earth far below. It was photos of this breathtaking panorama that had first driven me into the NASA program almost 20 years ago. So, what better way to spend the week than by gazing at the world in all its glory? Since our planned experiments were complete, other than basic maintenance, that's exactly what I spent the first several days doing. I could lose myself for hours, watching the blue water and brown land fly by underneath, the sun rising and setting every time I completed an orbit. Then came the event. 5 days into my lonely vigil, I'd been roughly woken by a blaring alarm. Houston was trying to reach me and they needed me now. What's going on, Houston? Weird readings, Libra. Satellites register some sort of anomaly we're just now picking up. Don't know if it's solar flares, some kind of field defined by a passing comet, or something else. We'll be moving into the area within the hour. There's no telling how the systems are going to respond. Better button up in the emergency cell until we're through. How long will that be? Don't know. We'll be in touch. It was good advice. Alarm started sounding almost exactly 60 minutes later, and abruptly whole sections of the station's instrument panel started shutting down. I was able to keep track of everything that was going on from the master controls in the emergency cell, so I knew exactly when power to the station completely cut out. There was a tense 5 to 10 seconds before the emergency batteries kicked in. Then, with a soft whine, they powered up the red lights I'd been basking in ever since. I paused my work at the maintenance panel. For the 1000th time, I take out the picture of my wife and daughter. They are both smiling, holding each other close. "Are you going to space again, Daddy?" "Yes, honey, but not for too long this time." "I don't want you to go." "Don't worry, I'll be back before you know it." The emergency batteries are designed to provide minimum function, pretty much just life support and basic communications. Theoretically, they'll last long enough that I'll have to be more concerned with running out of food and recycled water before worrying if they're going to run dry. But I'm blind and deaf in here. The communications are rudimentary, designed to run on almost no power, so it's small wonder I haven't been able to reach Houston. I have to do something. I can't even see outside since the emergency cell was designed specifically without any kind of viewport. The walls are starting to close in, and in a cell this small there's not much room to shrink. At least the voices haven't started yet. Like I said, the trick is to avoid them, but in here there's nowhere to run, nothing to distract my mind. The main system is powered by exterior solar panels. The system had been tested and retested to automatically restart in the event of a catastrophic failure. But when it finally counted, something stopped the reset. After a day or two, I decided to take matters into my own hands and pop the cover of the maintenance panel. After 2 weeks, I've gotten exactly 0 response from my efforts. As I put the photo of my family back in my pocket, the fear and unfairness of it all momentarily get the better of me. Damn it, I was supposed to be home weeks ago. In frustration, I hit the panel as hard as I can with my open hand. Amazingly, that does the trick. With a click and whir, the red lights shift to white and the instrument panel begins powering up to the fully operational state. Ecstatic, I throw myself across the cell to the communication array. "Houston, Houston, come in, this is Space Station Libra." I tried the line for 20 minutes. Still no response. What the hell is going on? A gnawing pit is growing in the base of my stomach. While the system was down, I could make excuses for the radio silence, use them to keep the panicky feeling to a dull roar. But now, I have to get out of this stupid cell. I may not be able to talk to people down here, but at least I can watch them. If I imagine hard enough, maybe I'll see my little girl looking to the sky to see if she can spy the station as it passes overhead. I unseal the airlock and move to the next module. I chuckle to myself. Maybe I'll be able to see my replacement shuttle. I peer through the viewport. Then, frantically, I move from module to module, looking through each porthole in turn, the pit growing deeper with each passing moment. She doesn't want you to go. She's a kid. Of course she doesn't want me to go. I don't want you to go either. I know, but I know you will anyway, and I won't stop you. I love you, babe. I love you too. Always. And forever. It takes the station's computer 2 hours to identify our position. Finally, it finds enough known stars to triangulate where we are, exactly where we should be. 2 weeks after the last measurements were taken. The rest of the universe, though, is a little off, ahead of itself by about 1500 years. In my gut, I'd already known that though. I'd known when I looked through the viewport and didn't see the big, beautiful Earth shining below me, just the dark, empty blackness of space, filled by only a few lonely stars. It's true what they say. If you're poor, you're crazy, and if you're rich, you're eccentric. For the last 10 years I've been working for Lord Humphrey in the north of England as a groundskeeper and handyman. Lord Humphrey is about as eccentric as they come, as was his father Lord Humphrey I and his father Lord Charles. I suspect Lord Charles' marriage to his cousin, who may or may not also have been his half-sister, to be the cause. The old families here are ridiculously inbred. Like a lot of the landed gentry in England, the estate the current Lord Humphrey owns is ridiculously valuable, but in actual monetary terms, he barely has a pot to piss in. My wages are low, but I don't mind, because the job comes with the groundskeeper's cottage, and I really love to be outdoors. I had a hideous childhood, mostly down to my mother, and left the home the moment she died. This place is somewhere I've been massively happy. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave. The family secret is about to come out, and I don't think this is going to be a good place to be anymore once it does. The estate is 1,400 acres, even having its own castle. Originally the family lived there, but as money got tighter and it fell into disrepair, they moved into Hawthorne Hall, which was another property on the estate. The contents of the castle were sold off and it rapidly became little more than a ruin. There are many other properties on the estate, including some old farm buildings that have been renovated and are now offices, and a few little cottages. There are also some vast wooded areas and many fields. In the middle of summer, the hunting parties come to shoot grouse and pheasant. As with any old places in England, the rumours of ghosts in the castle and lights in the woods are rife, and occasionally I'll have to chase off teenagers during the night that have come ghost hunting. I have never seen anything myself and find the estate beautiful and peaceful. I guess my story really starts at the time Lord Humphrey asked me to come and check out a growing damp patch on one of the ceilings in Hawthorne Hall. I won't bore you with the details, but while I was up in the attic fixing a leaking pipe, I found a journal. It was a journal of Lord Charles, and I'll begin by sharing some excerpts that I thought were pretty interesting. A child has disappeared from the village, and I suspect Humphrey to be involved. I saw the two of them playing only 2 days ago. I have questioned the boy and he denies any involvement. However, he will not meet my eyes, and I imagine him to know more than he will tell me. Humphrey is distraught. His nursemaid tells me he whimpers in the night. He will not take food, and I am seriously worried about him. Tonight I must sit down with Humphrey and discover what is ailing him. He is but skill and bone now, and I cannot lose another child. His mother could not cope. Losing our darling Emily at only 7 years of age to scarlet fever was almost too much for her to bear. Humphrey must be saved. Can I live with this terrible truth? My own son, a murderer, however accidental by design. At 9 years of age, did he not realize that a child cannot live without sustenance? Was it an accident? His demeanor since would lead me to believe so, but surely when the villagers were out searching for the child, he realized that was the time to speak. He locked the boy in Emily's old playhouse without so much as water. Wished that I had raised it to the ground when she passed on. Even while the search was going on, he knew the boy could still be saved and yet said nothing. I have sealed it now, and none shall enter. May it be buried in the brambles that surround it, and no one find the poor child's tomb. And may I be damned for my part in this horror. I guess Lord Humphrey Sr. had come to terms with what he'd done, because he lived to a ripe old age and fathered Lord Humphrey Jr. along the way. After reading the journal, I did try and look for the playhouse for a while, but a couple of years ago I came across it completely by accident. It was buried in the woods and was the size of a small room with a very low roof. The family had obviously had money at that point, because it was a proper stone building. It had small, shuttered windows and was in a state of dilapidation. Although I suspect when it was first built for Lord Charles' daughter, it must have been rather pretty. The wooden doors on the front were rotted and decaying and easy to break open. Inside were child-sized chairs and a table made of hardwood that had stood the test of time remarkably well. There was a full fireplace on the back wall, and curled up next to it were the skeletal remains of a small child. I've always been a sucker for children, and the fact this little one had his life snuffed out so early was devastating to me. I repaired the door as best I could. The poor kid should be left to rest in peace. Then, A year ago, a child went missing on the estate. His mother was a cleaner at the hall and had let him wander off while she was indulging in polishing a knob of a different kind with a delivery man. For a brief moment I did wonder if Lord Humphrey had anything to do with it, but as far as I could tell his madness didn't extend much further than taking pot shots at imaginary birds from the dining room windows in the hall and wandering the grounds, chatting away to himself. Lightning didn't strike twice in the same way that I'd expected. The boy was found safe and sound, but during the search his mother disappeared without trace. The locals, ever suspicious of the Lord of the Hall, were convinced Humphrey had something to do with it. Recently, Lord Humphrey has sold a chunk of his estate to developers as his funds were dwindling. On the land is the playhouse. The truth about the boy will come out, and I don't want to be around when it does. They're bound to realize I found the playhouse because I've spent so much time on the estate. There will be questions about why I didn't report the body. I couldn't, of course, because that's where I put the body of that woman. She was a terrible mother, just like mine. I'm not rich enough to be eccentric, so I guess bad mothers just make me crazy.